Alright, this is another quick thing for ERT add-on, which almost everybody usually has. So ERT is different from a raid lead standpoint versus like a raider standpoint, because a raid leader needs to have access to everything, because he may need to emergently, call like a raid cooldown, or call like an external, or call raid movement or something. Whereas, if you're a class, like a rogue, for example, right? You just kind of sit there and do damage. But if you are like a warrior or a demon hunter or like any of the healers, you need to be ready for if either an ability gets called out of the blue, if there's like, if something randomly got messed up or something you're not expecting. Raid overall is like pretty controlled, but there have been some fights in the past where some of the mechanics are health based. Like Remnant Nerzo is a good example. Like, although you could prep for it, you may get a situation where you have both the dispel for the orbs at the same time as the shatter mechanic, and it's like a hefty amount of damage. So it was like a bit annoying, but majority of the time raid is controlled. But the biggest thing with the ERT add-on is that it's very, very customizable, right? So me as a raid leader, I always feel useful to track, almost every raid cooldown in the game, because of those events. Sometimes I need to call something, majority of the time I'll make like a little note like this, right? I can make a note, this will be posted, it'll scroll with it, and it will call a specific person to use the cooldown, right? So this is like my rally, this is his bird, I think this is Jamie's like link. But essentially, and this is all done with like Viscerio's like spreadsheet, and it makes this like nice compact form. But the biggest thing with ERT that you can do as a non-raid leader is you can track specific things. So what I recommend that people do if you're just a raider is track movement, like single target movement abilities such as Blessing of Freedom, as well as externals such as GS, Sack, Cocoon, Bark, Time Dilution. These are important things to track, because say I have this, like a good example is Razageth, right? Razageth, in phase 1 you get the static charges that do the insane amount of raid damage, but you have like no cooldowns left. Call it. You call, like, so like when my holy pal, his name's Edrin, like, Edrin, sack me, and you're tracking sack, so you have it. You would just say sack me, and with this it would just, you see it's up, you call his name, you call the exact thing you want, and it will go on you. An example I can show you is from our kill. So this is my setup I use. My setup is a bit worse. Most people don't track CC. I had to for Razprog because we just had a lot of trouble with maintaining CC for both the orbs and on the P1 intermission. So I ended up tracking all the CC that we had, but most of the times I never track this. I usually only ever track the raid cooldown, which is in these two bars, the note itself, and then movement abilities here. Remember,
Adrian, can I get with?
These all can be moved completely around. So like this is a separate bar, this is a separate bar, this is a separate bar, this is a separate bar. I moved my movement speed here because I needed to be able to see it. And if I put it here, it would just too crowded, because Razageth was a pretty long fight. So I had to like track multiple things. But for you, for example, like what I've, like, so this is another add-on you can get, it's called OmniCD. You can get OmniCD to track externals, but OmniCD is a bit harder to configure. And most of the time, unless you're a tank, it's really not that important to track some of this stuff, like all these externals, or as even if you're not like a raid leader. But I do think as a raider, you benefit from at least tracking externals, right? And externals tracking in ERT is very, very, very simple. I mean, you literally do ERT, you'll go to raid cooldowns, you hit enable. Under this, appearance, bars. You can have 10 bars if you want. Most of my raiders don't even use the raid cooldown tab. I don't think they know it exists. You simply go to column 1, you will enable that bar, it will spawn it. So like, let me make like a new one, for example. Like, I don't have a bar 5. I enable it. Okay. I will. Let's see. So spells. Let's track. I don't know. Soulstone. Column 5. Okay. We track that one in column 5, and it will show up in column 5. So right now it doesn't show up because I don't have a. I'm not in a group with the Warlock. So I guess. What's a better way I should track this? Is there something I can track for myself? Hands? Let's do hands. Like I'll do this. Okay, here's column 5. This is that column I made. Column 5, spells, lay on hands is in column 5, and it shows up here, right? And if you unlock it, I can move this wherever I want, right? So say I want this. Say I want externals tracked here. I can put it in my health bar. Oh, look, I know I have. Here's one external, lay on hands, right? I can change this to blessing of freedom. Now that's there. Blessing of sacrifice. Now that's here. Right, so these are all the paladin ones, and you would configure this with every external in the game, right? Like pain slip, cocoon, bark, TD, GS. So doing this is very helpful because this means in raid, if you need something, you would just call the very specific person to give you the exact thing you want. In raid, it gets hectic a lot of the time. The one thing we saw in progress was some of our players would just say, I need something, and then every healer would press their external on that one player, and that is kind of pretty bad because what that one person has done is they've taken 3 externals. They've taken 3 externals out of the equation completely. So the next mechanic that comes, there's no externals available. So it needs to be very, very, very important that you track the very specific cooldowns that you need, but also when you call it, you only call from that one person the exact one you need. Paladins are really fucking broken in raid because of the amount of utility they have. Like, you know, right now I'm in red spec, right? And even in red spec, I have access to lay on hands, and sack, and freedom. And you know, if I swap to my prot spec, right? If I go to prot, I can get access to spell wording here. Right? So I would take off Inquisitor, do this, and I get spell wording now. And it'd be the same thing. Yeah, if there's a mechanic, like usually, majority of the time in raid, spell wording is taken by the pro paladin for specific mechanics that essentially cheese them. Like Razia, for example, you could spell wording yourself and immune yourself to the knockback. But, you know, there may be cases where spell wording is being used, you know, maybe as an external for progress. You know, you can call it, it's complete magic immunity. But, and then, you know, I also have bulb on this, right? So you have bulb, word, you have bulb spell wording, sack, lay on hands, freedom. So it's more to track these things. And the better you get at tracking these things, the better you get at specifically calling these things, the better off you will be for raid progress.